I call the meeting to order at 6:04. You want to read the minutes, Chris?
Okay, so the Town of Raynham Board of Sewer Commissioner meeting minutes of June 12th, 2014. Board of Sewer Commissioners opened the regular meeting on Thursday, June 12th, 2014, 6 p.m. at the Sewer Department Maintenance Facility at 416 Titicate Road. Present with Chairman John Dolan, Commissioners Richard Shivo and Joseph Betancourt. Also present is Superintendent Chris Gallagher. Superintendent then read the regular meeting of May 22nd, 2014, and minutes of the special meeting of June 4th, 2014. Commissioner Betancourt commented on the May 22nd meeting and requested as part of the Ron Turwitz Locust Street Sewer Extension that the superintendent approval letter contain the conditions that evidence of the granting of necessary easements be presented prior to the commencement of construction. Both minutes were then accepted by the commission. Superintendent Gallagher then submitted budget retained earnings information. Gallagher reported he anticipated closing out FY14 about $250,000 to $300,000 of the budget. Also presented was the 7/113 retained earning balance of $2,123,419, along with the FY 2014 appropriations, which reduced the balance to $1,168,379. Upon closing out the expense and revenue totals, the town accountant will determine a new 7/114 retained earnings amount. These topics, along with municipal accountant in general, discussed at length. Also discussed was the $582,701 that was transferred from retained earnings for construction debt in Article 15 of the recent town meeting. It was noted that this transfer was more than previously agreed upon. Superintendent Gallagher then gave an update on Phase 6. It was noted foundations were under construction for both Judson Street pump stations. Also, the Highway Department was performing full depth reconstruction for streets and contract 2 sewers and will complete final paving after completion of Judson Street line testing. It was noted that Southwell left for several weeks for another job. Will be back in 2 or 3 weeks to start back up on contract 3 line work and remaining pump stations in both contracts. Also, Chairman Dolan suggested having Administrative Assistant Brenda Carter perform the duties of recording secretary for the commission meetings. Superintendent Gallagher relayed that this was previously suggested to him by Commissioner Betancourt and that he had gone over this with Brenda and showed her copies of minutes. It was decided to have Brenda take minutes for future meetings. Invoices were then signed. The next regularly scheduled sewer commission meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July 10th, 2014 at 6 p.m. The meeting was adjourned at 7 o'clock. Respectively submitted, Chris J. Gallagher, P.E.
Any additions, corrections, deletions?
I don't see any, John. I think that,
All right, then they have accepted. That's right.
second?
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Next agenda item, we have Nick Harris, Locust Street Sewer Extension. You have anything to bring to us, Chris?
Yeah, Nick had submitted plans and submission fees. And what this is when the sewer was done on, I believe as part of contract 1, along with Whippoorwill. If you come into the end of King Street and hit Locust, the sewer was extended up Locust, just past Whippoorwill, towards the water tower. Nick has 2 lots that from the former Jerry Kelleher property out of Bassett-Knoll, they're frontage lots. And so he wants to extend it, I think about, 400 or 500 feet up the street to get those 2 lots sewered. When I went over it with him, what I had him do is put services to lots on the other side, which is some of the Alice Gary Lynn, brings it kind of up to the water tower. And told him it's same conditions as Ron Turwitz down the other end, full depth reconstruction in the trench area and overlay, got to overlay pavement.
Curb to curb.
Curb to curb. Yeah. And just to point out to you, I talked to Turwitz's people. I guess they had talked to the highway department, and they might do the same sort of deal where they come up with the number for the paving, and you give it to the highway, because they can get more bang for their buck on.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that's something they're working out. I got the email over vacation, I could sit and talk to John Jacoby, John Turwitz's attorney, and I guess whoever I think will be taking over for Roger.
How much now is gonna be left on that interlocal street that's not sewer?
It's not that much, I mean, it wouldn't be bad to change 200 and couple onto the project,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking is.
Yeah,
This is,
because we come from the Pleasant Street side.
Yeah, the extension that we approved will go down to the Pleasant Street side through those 2 easements that you're supposed to get for us.
these are small plans, I don't, I mean, Turwitz's goes up quite a ways, I could pull up the assessors map and give you an idea. This extension
Is this way.
is to these 2 lots.
Now, how far up is Wilson's house?
Right here, Wilson's Way. He's right next to
Okay.
it.
And the tank's just right over here. That's the tank?
Yeah,
That's the
WT.
tank, yeah, so
Yeah.
this will bring it right to in front of the water tank. The other extension brought it partway down, but it's, if it was to be, you know, popped on by Southall and a change order, that type of thing to finish it through our end, you'd gain quite a few customers, and also it's just gravity. There's no pumps, there's no anything involved
Well,
in it.
that was the question I'd have as to what this elevation would be as compared to where he's bringing in his other. You know, if it's gravity from here to him, then it's a relatively easy installation for you.
It wouldn't be, actually, it would be gravity, you'd have to extend Turwitz's up towards, because the water tower is the high point. That's the highest point in Raynham, land-wise. You know, that section of Locust Street.
Yeah,
And so the extension with Mr. Harris, you might have to extend that a little farther, but then the other way, you'd come from the other way. I did the grades and did a layout.
So
It
we'd
works.
actually flow to 2 different stations.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
but I did a layout for the topography a year or so ago, and it works. It's-
this flows south,
Right.
and the other one's going to flow north to Pleasant Street.
It would actually, the other one will flow north, turn down through the lots into the
Yes,
Paddock Road.
yeah,
pump
when I say
station.
north to Pleasant
Yeah,
Street,
towards, yeah.
it's taken right on the easement behind those 2 houses
Right,
to get over to Paddock.
yeah,
Yeah,
How are we with capacity on Paddock?
over fine,
Fine.
over fine. It's got low pump hours on it. Mechanically, it's not a totally sound station. We do have monies to do some improvements. And we've gone through it. It could use a new control panel. It could use a new generator.
Well, we have money
Generator's
set
caught
aside
on
for that.
fire a few times, and we have money for
Yeah.
that. That was a separate appropriation. So we could do some upgrades. This flows down through Whipplewell Woods
yeah.
to behind Reed Smith to a pump station right there. But this extension itself, as you can see, it starts at station 0 on sheet 2, and you know, goes up to the right. I had him put a manhole with the extension on it if we wanted to take it further. Had to put a stub on the end. And
He doesn't
so-
have lots on both sides of the street, does he?
No, he has map 12, lot 219 and 219G. So
Wow.
in this extension, he.
So that goes by 3 other lots.
So he put 3 services, yeah. He's put 3 services to the other side of the street.
And on the west side of the street, 1, 2, 3, at least 4 lots. And then
This.
215A, which is big.
214E already has sewer. They don't show the, oh yeah, they show existing sewer stuff right at the corner of 214.
Okay, all right.
So he's okay. In fact, there's a house actually going up on that.
Yeah, okay. I started the wrong spot, I didn't start at 00.
There would be 3 across the street, he did his 2. And with the, and put an extension on coming out of the other manhole, so we wouldn't have to core it if we wanted to if we chose to extend it further, or if someone else chose to extend it further.
What's the approximate length of that, you said, Chris?
525 thereabouts.
What, with manhole,
520. 520 from manhole to the second manhole.
Now, I wanna ask a question about, he pays the entire cost of putting it in.
Right.
He puts the stubs in. We don't better those
No,
houses.
what they have to pay, connection fee.
Well, everybody pays connection fee. That's beside, you know, I'm just talking, those people would be free because he's built it. And for his two houses, anything along the way, they get the benefit of it. Well, we didn't spend any money to build it, that's why.
Right.
Okay,
So they pay a new construction betterment fee versus if you paid a betterment, you'd have a small fee.
yeah. But it won't cost them as much as somebody starting from scratch. This is pretty straightforward.
So we need that in the form of a motion to accept.
Chris? Are you looking for a motion to accept?
That's what, yeah, Nick is
Okay,
actually.
are you comfortable with this?
Yeah, and I went over it with him, it's gonna be the same conditions as Ron Turwitz, construction-wise.
And they're gonna pay for our supervision,
Yeah,
doing construction, and they go curb to curb with the paving.
right.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay, and I'll second that motion, all in favor?
All right?
Okay, let's vote. All right.
Thank you.
Good luck with your construction.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Just keep Chris informed.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, superintendent, phase 6 update.
Okay, basically, I've been on vacation, so I haven't been around, but I've kept in contact with Bruce. Selco has come back and started construction again, middle of last week, so they're laying pipe, on contract 3 right now. So that's started back up again. And basically the other, and Bruce has been out there overseeing it, and they're still continuing the construction on the pump stations. Joey Ruder's Dean Street's gonna be starting, and the 2 on Judson. I ended up meeting with, talking to David Grab, and he ended up creating a report that, which is something what you wanted. He likes me now after the Veterans Memorial. It'll be a lot easier to work with. But what he did was he gives me our expenses, real expenses, what we paid out, what we brought in, and it gives me a net revenue over or under expenses. So we can back into a retained earning balance on a monthly basis.
That's good.
So this, what I submitted in your package represents the end of May, so there's 1 month left, which I haven't, he hasn't calculated, he's
This?
still, yeah.
Okay.
There's still the one last month, which they let you, for your year end, take it out to July 15th to get bills that are coming in late. So all of ours are basically in, so he'll give me another report for the end of July, which will actually come out to your retained earnings, certified retained earnings be July 1st. What this represents is as of the end of May, we've actually had a lot of good revenue. It seems like buildings picking up a little. So our net revenues over expenses were $640,000, so we've had a very good year. So you can take the one I have on the sewer letterhead, the retained earnings, you can take the balance we were certified in July, take out all your appropriations, which had to do with either budget or capital items, and take out your appropriations for your expenses for construction debt. and your FY 2015 expenses, and then add your revenues from the report, you still have a healthy balance in your retained earnings, 1.8.
And that doesn't reflect the new sewer bills that are going out.
No,
Yeah.
no. And
That's revenue for 15.
that's revenue for 15. That, they'll go out in another 4 weeks maybe. I gotta get Tim over here, the usual, and when I get back, I'll be back at some point Monday, and Brenda will start doing our address changes and putting our commercial water meter readings, that type of thing. So we're healthy, so it was a good year. The other thing in the package I had was just a list of all the expenditures we have spent on the Article 21 of the 2011 annual town meeting, which is
The $9 million.
the $9 million. There's 6.1 million left. But again, that's through the end of fiscal year.
Now, all he had to do
Period,
was
yeah, period, yeah.
run a program to get this information for you.
These could, yeah, different reports. What it is some people kind of think everyone else should know what they know. And there's this Fundware software, but I don't have access to it. If I was in town hall, I'd have access. And he was having a lot of trouble with the computers, and Tim has been over there redoing the whole network. Finally, as of this week, the new server is online, it's done, but he had been having trouble, and he ended up, getting this stuff out for me. He couldn't get it out and email it for some reason. He couldn't pull the documents, but so he hard copied it. But so he should be good now. I mean, the server's supposedly up running. Tim Graybar's the IT, town's IT man, has it all back to normal, I guess.
Mhm.
But I don't have access to it through my computer. If the town hall, everybody has that server. I don't have it to get into that software. So I have to
They
annoy him
in
and
town
make-
hall not everybody in town hall may have access to this type of information.
Yeah. So I have to get him to get me hard copies,
Yeah.
is the only way to get it.
Yeah,
I know, it's an extra thing for him to do.
because if everybody had access, John, they'd be putting in any number they wanted to.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good security issue, but too bad we can't get him online to send you a monthly update, like on the first of the month.
That's what I'm gonna have him do, basically. That's what he's gonna do.
You know, it's funny, John, because I talked to the treasurer.
Mhm.
I was trying to get the same type of information. She says, oh, we should be able to get this. She says, we said the glitches, some of the glitches are
Yeah.
done. We should be able to tell you how
Well-
much
well-
you've collected.
Chris should be on top of that, he should have that information presented to him on a monthly basis.
Yeah, and as soon as
Yeah.
they
So
know
he can
what they're
report
gonna
to
do,
us.
He
They
give
can
me
just print it
reports,
out to
but
you.
they're difficult to.
Oh, yeah,
If you,
yeah.
they're difficult to understand, and they're just a snapshot in time, but this report's nice and easy to
Well,
understand.
the first time I asked him for information, he flooded me with numbers and it was useless. He knew what he was doing, but not being an accountant, I didn't.
Well, this just it gives me what I wanna know.
Right.
Expenses, revenues,
Right.
where am I? Instead of, the other reports were difficult to understand and never really kinda gave you a nice clean bottom line.
No, this is, these two pieces are very good.
And this was the, last accountant, Jan, she had this in a nice, but this is a nicer report than what I was getting, but, she had a nice Excel spreadsheet that was, run my expenses.
one of the things that I asked the treasurer, John, was, how much do you bill out for the sewer? I said, you bill twice a year. Do you have an idea how much you bill out? And not everybody pays within 30 days of getting their bill. Some people are considerably later than that. I wanted to get a general idea of what we could anticipate for that, for revenue.
Mhm.
If it's $2 million, then we know we're gonna get two. Eventually, if they don't pay it, the assessment goes on their property.
That's right.
So we know we're gonna get it. And then everything else that we do with new fees or anything goes, is a plus to that. And she didn't quite understand the question.
I do that, Joe.
You can do that.
Yeah, I tell her what to bill. What happens is, we don't do the billing I prepare the whole billing register.
Right, you know the number of customers
Yeah,
times
Okay.
the semi-annual billing,
yeah.
and that'll give us the total figure for that 6 months.
We're running about, you know, we've gone up a little
Sure.
with rates and with customers. I mean, there's new connections every month. So we're 700 plus twice a year right now. But what we do is, the commercial's gone down, actually, a lot of water usage, just because business is slow. And the dog track, you've lost a lot.
Oh, but you've lost the use.
Yeah, so.
A lot of dock stores too.
So we will input, you know, in the next couple of weeks, I'll input the gallons for each business, ones that are charged that way. All the new customers will be input, you know, we maybe 25 new customers in the last 6 months. And I'll address changes, anything necessary. And I give them a billing register and I ship it over to them through the computer. And they just enter it into their machine, it spits out all the bills. So I have a number of what gets billed out. The ratio of what gets taken in, I really don't know, but I'm
Yeah.
assuming a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
Based on these revenue reports.
That's one of the
he's giving me
things
now.
that I asked her, what the revenue was. That would give you an idea how much is not been collected. Because if we start with a revenue figure of, say, $2 million, and we physically don't collect the $2 million, then, you know, the numbers that we're working off of sometimes could be a little bit skewed. That's
Yeah,
all.
I don't, when I do my revenue projections for budgetary reasons, when I do, you know, my projections, I assume around 90%. I mean,
Well,
I
that's
do
fine.
that, and it seems like
That's
it's been
fine, because I
working
think we'd
okay.
like to, I agree with John in being able to get a monthly report as to revenue and expenditures, so that we know where we are. And that's very important.
This one he gives me now, this one worked out, it's, you know, because I said make it simple for me, because we're not gonna.
You wanted a
have
kiss
this.
deal.
Yeah, exactly, so
Right.
that's
Okay.
what he ended up putting out, that's nice, it's a nice report.
Okay.
And then the revenues as far as connections, a lot of times you don't know, you might, like, 2 years ago, we had a big 400,000 Walmart bonus.
Of course.
Station connection, so I mean, typically you'd run a couple hundred a year, this year we're running really healthy.
Yeah.
Connections and
When we
licenses.
first started, we were running very healthy.
Mm.
I have Bruce making copies of the proposal that was emailed to me from Tire Bond for Suzanne Drive and River Street, for Chris and for you, Joe, to look over.
And the other thing that throws my, it's kind of weird, my revenues off, is when we have inspections on private developments like this, I'm paying for it out of my expenses, which I don't really have a separate line item, but it gets reimbursed.
Right.
So, I don't have it as an expense line item, so you might have like a Walmart where you have a bunch of hours of inspections. And then you might have a year where nothing gets done. I mean, we've only had like 1 to 2 subdivisions in 5 years since we've gone. So you'll put out that money out of your expenses, but then when you get it back, it doesn't go back in your expenses. You
Does
can't
go
do it
back
that
as a
way because
credit.
of how
No, it
comes
goes
out.
back in his other income.
Yeah, so it goes back in as a revenue source, and so it makes it look
Well,
like you're making
if you
more
can
than
get the
you're
accountant to take all of those expense items and list it as other with a category, that can be kept in that section, and that can be offset by the revenue.
Yeah.
So it doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
It doesn't distort.
It's a
I
number
asked
that
him at
can't
one
be
time,
predicted.
an accounting question, John. I said, what about having a clearing account? He looked at me, and then I realized that municipal accounting is nowhere near public accounting.
No, it isn't, no.
Because in a clearing account, anything that I know I'm gonna get reimbursed for, I expense to that account. When a reimbursement comes in, I credit against that account, and it washes. It doesn't affect anything.
Can't go.
It would be easy.
Yeah.
Well, see, we can't do things easy.
Right, no. Well, he is with the state, anything that we paid out of pocket so to speak, and we got reimbursement right into the state
General
treasury,
fund.
general fund, and it came out of my expense accounts,
Yeah.
but yet I didn't, like our retained earnings, I didn't even see that. Once I spent it, and I was reimbursed for it, it went right back to the general
Yeah.
fund, and I didn't even get credit for it.
I could do a line item for inspections, but it's an unpredictable number, because you don't know year to year, and as long as I stay running under budget, which, you know.
Those are minor things.
It's not a big number.
Yeah,
generally.
they're minor things. If it became a big thing, it would be, we really want them to refine it so that we had a better handle on it.
In worst
It's
case.
not as if you're throwing $400,000 or $500,000 in a hole.
And if it looked like it was a bit over, you'd always have the May town meeting, that's just before the end of the year to readjust your appropriation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Bruce. By the way, while we're getting this, welcome Brenda.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You taking notes?
I am.
That's the proposal. Chris? It's the engineering service proposal for the expansion at Suzanne Drive and River Street, River Road area.
Design the services that do Off the top of your head, Chris, is this Suzanne Drive and River Street lend itself to gravity, or is this gonna have to be a lift?
Both.
A little of both?
A little of both, yeah. You got a Suzanne Drive area, you're probably gonna have a low pressure system. For the first 1,000 feet, you'll hit gravity, and they have these big box culverts, you'll end up with a low pressure system with grinder pumps.
Okay.
River Street, you'll end up about halfway down River Street, maybe a little more is a low point, and you'd have to do a taking on this piece of land, and it's a wooded area, which works out pretty good. It's not like it's someone's front yard, but you'd have to do a taking for a pump station there.
You get down far enough, you go to Taunton.
Yeah. But you'll be able to pick everyone up on gravity to one central pump station. The only one on low pressure, I think, will be the Bon Jovi's house, which is before the, I forget the name of that brook, it might be Furnace Brook. There's a
There's a river?
small brook, there's the river.
On River Street.
And then there's a brook that goes from Taunton
First
River.
house on the right as you're going down
Yeah.
River Street.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
house on the right will be low pressure. And that was actually shown as low pressure on contract 4. But instead of doing it on contract 4, we were gonna incorporate it into the River Street design, because you're running a force main by there anyway. So instead of running, what they had, 300 or 400 feet of low pressure, you could run 20 feet. So it's, when I looked at it, so I told, asked Dan Holmes to, incorporate that into it. Because you were gonna be running a force main right by his house anyway, the pump station, so you could just run a service off it.
Now, scope of work, bidding documents, contract 5 project, coordinate and provide field personnel to observe 18 to 20 soil borings spaced approximately 300 feet along the proposed sewer corridor. Base plans to incorporate the May aerial survey. Did they do an aerial survey in May?
They did an aerial, under a separate contract.
They did?
Yeah. In fact, they have an invoice for it. I couldn't pay it until I got a number for the appropriation. So it'll come out of the $2.5 million, so keep it as part of that project. So the accountant got me a number 2 weeks ago.
One set of bidding documents for both 4 and 5 that will be bid in a manner that will allow the project there's two projects which will simplify the betterment process. Is, Suzanne Drive one contract and River Street the other? Is that why he's referring to 4 and 5, or is
No,
there?
4 is, from the Taunton River, Joey Ruta's pump station is, to the railroad tracks in front of all John Alpin's apartments on Church Street.
Okay,
That's about half a mile of sewer. Just
Okay.
a gravity pump station. That's
so just
contract
put them
4.
together and be able to,
Contract 5 is River and Suzanne.
yeah,
So
this side, that side, and 4 is down the middle.
and the
Okay,
idea is,
we'll make it as easy as possible.
you know, bid them out as one project.
And under the level of effort, it mentions that the permitting item may be reduced if Chris attends the meetings.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I generally have gone to all the, town, you know, conservation meetings.
Yeah.
I did all the, presentations. They give me a copy of their plans, I color them up and present them.
So they wanna give you $10,000 credit if you do all the work at the meetings.
Well, they'll do the notice of intent, they probably not gonna give that much of a credit, but,
They will credit for the
but
time.
they typically come down with 2 or 3 people, a botanist, or this or that, I don't really, I can handle that. You know, everything for forward with conservation. I don't know what, I don't think there's really any other permits required. Besides notice of intent. Not sure if the sewer extension applies, because they're really lax now on that, they've really reduced the requirements.
This is next year's construction anyways, isn't it?
Go out to bid in November, but next year's construction, yeah. Well, should I sign this, Joe?
Well, John, I have not had an awful lot of experience with this type of contract for time bond. You have more experience than I do. I just wanna make sure they're not charging us for something they're supposed to do and, you know, charging us more than they should.
No, it's mainly a boilerplate type of
You know,
proposal.
and I've had, and you've had boilerplate language sometimes that gets by you, but, if we're going to do the extension on Suzanne and,
River Street.
River Street, and, he's gonna incorporate part of, this is for basically Suzanne and River Street.
Right,
He's already got a contract for 4?
yes.
Okay, well,
They-
he's been the
they've done-
engineer.
They've done everything so far, so I think it's a good bet. So I'll sign it and date it, and Chris, you can send it back to him. How many copies do you think he'll need, just the one?
Well, I don't even know if they even need the original, but, you could do 3 of them, that way we have them on file, just so they could send them original.
Well, we should have their original signature
Yeah.
on ours.
Is that, do you, no, actually, they can get that off email. so we
And
have it.
you can then sign our copy
Okay,
and
here's
give to
the,
him.
here's the original. Would you give me a copy and I'll sign that, and you can send this one off to him.
You keep the original.
So I'll send him that and have them put original signatures on it and have him send it back.
Well, actually, there are originals.
He's already signed
yeah,
our
yeah.
proposal.
Oh, okay. Okay, no, I thought you got it through email, so there wouldn't be original.
No, he's got the letterhead. And one guy signed with a blue pen, the other guy signed with a black pen. So, it looks like it's the original.
Yeah, there you go, Chris.
Now, for general information for the new member here on the board, under construction right now, how soon will we be finished with, Judson Street? And I'm gonna say the north side of 44.
The plan is to have contracts 2 and 3, north and south side, done by the end of the construction season this
Yep.
year. And the thought would be to better them on the January tax bill.
Okay, so if we can get, you can get the south side done, then the betterment will go out for everybody at the same time.
Yeah. The south side's more expensive per home, so it would kind of even out with everything.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only reason I ask that is because if you take a section to better half a contract, you know? So, I was just curious, because I know they're doing the finish on Locust Street, and they're gonna put the binder down on Judson, and I knew that you were on the other side, on Dean Street, so I was just curious as to when that would be done. The end of the year, so we could say sometime by Thanksgiving.
And then we're gonna have to come up with some scenario, there's, commercial section too, 44 section. Figure out how we're gonna,
How do we service 44?
Low pressure.
listen to pressure. It's already low pressure.
It goes
From the
right
back
No.
or down
The
down
shoulders.
44?
The shoulders, one on
Okay.
each side.
Okay,
Be a 2-inch line on each side.
okay. Because I know it's not easy going down the middle of it and trying to put laterals in for anything, so.
How far down are we going?
Metro Ford and then Highland Auto, up to Hill Street.
Okay.
So we go, you know, run past church and all the way up to Hill. Yeah, that, we're not actually, the original design called for a crossing, because from breakdown lane to breakdown lane, white stripe to white stripe, is steel reinforced concrete base for the road, same as 138. And so it's expensive to go through, they want full fill, it get costly. So there was a crossing, we eliminated it, and so we're putting the north side of 44 is actually gonna go into contract 2 sewers, even though it's part of contract 3. And the south side is gonna go into contract 3 sewers towards Church Street.
Yeah, well, that's just where the effluent ends up, that's really not a problem.
Yeah,
So
same
like
crossing.
Mastria, is he on town sewer?
Mastria is,
Because he's got 4 dealers.
west of Hill Street he is, but he's
Okay.
not on the
His,
dealership he has
the
between,
Cadillac GM dealership is not,
you know, the one between Hill and Church is not.
okay,
The other ones he gets from the back,
yeah,
and they go into Paramount Drive.
that's where a hookup was when they put the apartments in there. There's some type of an easement that goes back through Noblin's land and
Yeah.
into Paramount, yeah. Can't get there from here very easy.
No.
Okay, you have some invoices for us.
It's good. Selco payment for, contract, is payment number 15 for contract 2. And then the rest of time bonds for 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 5 has a different account number. I got the account that they set up. An account for the River Street, Suzanne Drive,
You have all of them.
sewers.
On a percentage, Chris, what would you say that Selco has done on this contract?
Contract 2,
Well, this is phase 6, contract 2, previous payments 5% payment to, total to date, 2.3. It doesn't tell me what,
Well, it's a $3 million contract.
$3 million contract,
Yeah,
okay.
it's about 600, well, almost 700 grand, less, slightly less.
75%.
Yeah.
Again, actually, there's,
Just the 2 pump stations, basically, is left to do.
yeah, they're actually a little more than that, just because of some of the monies are going to, aggregate through the highway instead of going to Selco for the paving.
Now, when they do that, do they give, they bill us for that and they give them the money?
They bill us and we pay the bill.
Right, yeah. Aggregate will bill us and we'll pay the bill.
We may do something similar on contract 3. Just they get, they get a cheaper payment rate, but state bid.
Well, he has a contract with Aggregate for any paving they do in town. And it's a good rate. And unfortunately, as I said before, they did not give me the same rate when I was doing the town hall. And Roger said to me, well, you should have. I said, I gave him a price, I gave him the bid. I told him we're doing it here in the town. He knew it was in town, and as fate would have it, Terry Edwards came in with a lower price than what he had quoted me. Now, I don't know what the quote would have been if he had gone through Roger. And they were right there doing 104.
All right, do we have any other business to discuss tonight? Joe,
Not that I know of.
Chris,
No?
Bruce? Okay, well, very good. Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at
Okay.
6:45.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good, it is a vote. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen.
Enjoy the rest of the month, and our next meeting is August.
And that will be on August 14th.
Yeah, that's right, I have that listed.
Yeah. And if anything comes up, just let everyone know.
I came up this morning from Rhode Island, I had an 11 o'clock meeting